Welcome to Sports Law Media on YouTube. It's your guy, Sports Law, broadcasting live today, November 10th, 2025. Today we're going to do things a little bit different. We normally do two different streams, one for college football and one for NFL football. Today we are going to do one stream, and it's going to be college football and NFL picks, my perspective for games for November 10th through 18th of 2025. We'll start with the college thing. We're going to do things a little differently with the format on each of those. And normally in years past, weeks past, we've done some in-depth analysis on the teams, and we are going to do some analysis, but it's not going to be as in-depth since a majority of the teams that's within the top 25 have pretty much stayed in the top 25 for most of the season, just a different position each week. So we're going to do things a little bit different today, and instead of focusing on specifically the top 25, we're going to do more college teams. It may not be as much of a way of analysis, but we're going to just do the best we can. We'll go through what we're going to do is we're going to go through I'm going to go through each of these games in college. I'll tell you what information you need to know. I'll mention what the pros say the margin of victory is, which is the amount of points they think the winner's going to win by. I'll tell you what the over-under is, and then basically what I'll do is I will let you know, based off just looking at the game itself, who I think is going to win. And if I agree with the pros or disagree, I'm just going to state so and tell you my thoughts. All right, but before we get into that, I know it's a little windy, so bear with me. In the AP poll top 25 this week, you have number 1, Ohio State, number 2, Indiana, number 3, Texas A&M, number 4, Alabama, number 5, Georgia, number 6, Ole Miss, number 7, Oregon, number 8, Texas Tech, number 9, Notre Dame, number 10, Texas, number 11, Oklahoma, number 12, BYU, number 13, Vanderbilt, number 14, Georgia Tech, number 15, Utah, number 16, Miami and Florida, number 17, USC, number 18, Michigan, number 19, Louisville, number 20, Virginia, number 21, Tennessee, number 22, Cincinnati, number 23, Pittsburgh, number 24, James Madison, and number 25, South Florida. For the college football games, they will be taking place November 10th through 16th of 2025, and this is week 12. And hello to you, Aldi. I appreciate you joining me today. Akil. Anyway, on November 11th, 2025, you have two games going on that day. You have Kent State versus Akron. The pros have Akron winning that game by 5.5 or 6. The over-under is 47.5 or 48. In that game, I agree with the pros. Akron will beat Kent State, and I will go over the 48. Then you have the University of Ohio versus Western Michigan. The pros in that game have the University of Ohio winning by 1.5 or 2 points, and the over-under is 47.5 or 48. I disagree with the pros on that one. I'm going to have Western Michigan win the game by 2, and I'm going under the 48. You have 3 games on November 12th. And in those games, you have Buffalo versus Central Michigan. In that game, Central Michigan is favored by the pros to win by 2.5 or 3 points. And the over-under is 44.5 or 45. So I agree with the pros on that one. And I'm going to go over the 45. Next, you have Northern Illinois versus Massachusetts. The pros have Northern Illinois defeating Massachusetts by 10.5 or 11 points. The over-under is 42.5 or 43. I agree with them. I agree with the pros on that one, and I'm going to go over the 43. Hello, how are you? We're just going over college football picks right now. I'm discussing college football. I'm looking at my picks. I'm just telling you the information and then my picks. I'm not going to do as much of detailed analysis this week. I'm trying to do something a little different. And instead of doing 2 streams, one for college football and NFL, we're going to combine the 2. And we're going to do college and NFL. But right now we're talking college football, and we'll move to NFL football at that time. Yes, this is college football and NFL. We're going to talk both today. Let's see. Next game is Toledo versus the University of Miami in Ohio. In that game, they have Toledo favored to win the game by 3.5 or 4 points. The over/under is 44.5 or 45. I'm going to disagree. I'm going to disagree with the pros on that one. I have Miami and Ohio winning the game by 2, and I'll go over 45. You have one game on November 13th, which is Troy versus Old Dominion. Let's see. The pros have Old Dominion defeating Troy by 10.5 or 11 points, and the over/under is 53.5. I agree with the pros on that one, and I'm going to go over the 54. Or I'm sorry, over the 54. Yes. On Friday, November 14th, you have a couple of games. You have Clemson versus Louisville, and in that game, Louisville is favored to beat Clemson by 3.5 or 4 points, and the over/under is 51.5 or 52. I agree with the pros on that one. Louisville wins, and I'm going to go under the 52. You have Minnesota versus Oregon, and the pros have Oregon winning that game by 24.5 or 25 points. The over/under is 46.5 or 47. I agree with the pros on that one, and I'm going to go over the 47. Okay. Let's see. All the other games that I'll be discussing will be taking place on Saturday, November 15th for college football. So, here we go. We have Wisconsin versus Indiana. The pros have Indiana winning that game by 30.5 or 31 points, and the over/under is 45. I will agree with the pros. Indiana wins the game, but I don't think it's going to be by 31. But I do see Indiana winning by 21. I'm going over the 45. South Carolina versus Texas A&M. The pros have Texas A&M winning by 17.5 or 18 points, and the over/under is 48.5 or 49. I agree Texas A&M wins, but not by 18. I think it'll be 14, and I will go over the 49. You have Notre Dame versus Pittsburgh. In that game, you have Notre Dame favored to win by 10.5 or 11 points. The over/under is 55.5 or 56. I agree with the pros having Notre Dame win the game, but I think Notre Dame wins by 7, not by 11. Let's see. The over/under is 56. I'm going under the 56. Next, you have Michigan versus Northwestern. Yeah, Michigan versus Northwestern. And in that game, let's see. In that game, you have Michigan favored to win that game by 10.5 or 11 points. The over/under is 40.5 or 41. I agree with the pros on that game, and I believe Michigan wins by 11. I will go over the 41. Next game we're going to look at is Arizona versus Cincinnati. The pros have Cincinnati winning that game by 6.5 or 7 points. The over/under is 56.5 or 57. I agree Cincinnati wins by 7, and I'll go under the 57. Let's see. Kansas State versus Oklahoma State is the next game, and the pros have Kansas State winning that game by 19.5 or 20 points. The over/under is 55.5 or 56. I agree that Kansas State wins the game, but I don't think it's going to be by 20. It'll be more like by 12, and I'll go under the 56. Next, you have, let's see. Next, you have Air Force versus UConn, and in that game, they have UConn favored to win that game by 8.5 or 9 points. The over/under is 63.5 or 64. I agree with the pros on this one. UConn defeats Air Force by 9, and I'm going under the 64. Next, you have UTSA versus Charlotte. The pros have UTSA winning by 17.5 or 18. The over/under is 60.5 or 61. I do agree with the pros on UTSA winning, but I think it's going to be by 14, not 18. I'll go over the 61. Next, you have South Florida versus Navy, and in that game, they have South Florida winning the game by 11 points. Well, actually, it's 10.5 or 11 points, and the over-under is 64.5 or 65, so I agree. I'll have USF winning that game by 11, and I will go under the 65. Next, you have Eastern Michigan versus Ball State, and in that game, you have Eastern Michigan favored to win by 2.5 or 3 points, and the over-under is 49.5 or 50. I disagree completely with that one. I think Ball State beats Eastern Michigan by 3, and I'm going over the 50. Next game we have is Arkansas versus LSU. And in that game, they have LSU favored to win that game by 5.5 or 6 points. And the over-under is 55.5 or 56. I agree. I think the pros have it right on that one. LSU defeats Arkansas by 6, and I'll go over the 56. And hello to you, Jacqueline. Hello to you, Merlin. I appreciate each and every one of you joining me today. Let's see. Next game is Oregon State versus Tulsa. And in that game, you have Oregon State favored to beat Tulsa by 1.5 or 2 points. And the over-under is 49.5 or 50. I disagree with that one. I'm going to have Tulsa win by 2, and it's going to be over the 50. Next, you have West Virginia versus Arizona State. And in that game, the pros have Arizona State favored to win by 10.5 or 11 points. And the over-under is 47.5. I agree with the pros on that one. Arizona State wins by 11, and I'll go over the 48. They have Kentucky versus Tennessee Tech. No information is available on the margin of victory or the over-under, so my prediction for that game is going to be Kentucky wins the game 49-3 over Tennessee Tech. All right, next game we got is Marshall versus Georgia State. That game is, the pros have Marshall winning that game by 6.5 or 7 points, and the over-under is 62.5. or 63. I do agree on that one. I think Marshall will win the game by 7. I'll go over on that one. Next game you have is North Texas versus UAB. And in that game, the University of North Texas is favored to beat UAB by 17.5 or 18 points. The over-under is 70.5 or 71. I agree with the pros having North Texas defeat UAB by 18. And I will go under the 71. Next, you have UTEP versus Missouri State. In that game, you have Missouri State favored to win by the pros by 4.5 or 5 points, and the over-under is 51 or 50.5. I'm going to disagree completely with that one. I think UTEP wins the game by 3, and I'm going to go over the 51. Next, you have is Colorado State versus New Mexico. And in that game, you have New Mexico favored to win by 14.5 or 15 points, and the over-under is 53.5. So I agree with New Mexico winning that game by 15. I'll go over the 54. Next game you have is Oklahoma versus Alabama, and in that game, Alabama's favored to win by 8 over Oklahoma, and the pros have the over-under at 45.5 or 46. I do agree with Alabama winning the game, but I don't think it's going to be by 8. It's going to be by 4. I'm going to go over the 46. Next game you have is Texas Tech versus UCF. And in that game, you have the pros favoring Texas Tech to win by 23.5 or 24 points. The over-under is 48.5 or 49. I do agree Texas Tech wins the game, but I think it's going to be by 15, not 24. And I'm going to go over the 49. Next, you have Virginia versus Duke, and in that game, they have Duke favored to win that game by 6.5 or 7 points, and the over-under is 59.5 or 60. I'm going to disagree completely with that one. I have Virginia winning the game by 4 over Duke, and I'm going to go over the 60. Next, you have Georgia Tech versus Boston College. Let's see. The pros have Georgia Tech winning that game by 16.5 or 17. And the over-under is 58.5 or 59. In that game, I think Georgia Tech wins the game, but not by 17. I think it's going to be by 9, and I'm going to go over the 59. Next game we have is Miami versus NC State. In that game, Miami is favored to beat NC State by 14.5 or 15, and the over-under is 55.5 or 56. In that game, I certainly agree with the pros on that one. Miami wins the game by 15, and I'm going to go over the 56. Alrighty. Sorry about the wind. It's just really cold today, so just bear with me. Next game we have is Iowa versus USC. And in that game, USC, by the pros, is favored to win by 6.5 or 7 over Iowa. And the over-under is 49.5 or 50. And hello to you, Locale and Power in US Network. Hello to each of you. Anyway, in that game with USC versus Iowa, USC is favored to win by 7, and the over-under is 49.5 or 50. I agree with the pros on that one. The game is going to be an interesting one. And let's see. I'm going to agree with USC winning by 7, and the over, I'm going to go over the 50. Next, you have Penn State versus Michigan State. And in that game, the pros have Penn State favored to win that game by 6.5 or 7. The over-under is 48.5 or 49. I'm going to agree with the pros on that one. Penn State wins by 7. I'm going over the 49. In the Maryland versus Illinois game, they have Illinois favored to win that game by 14.5, but there's no information on the over-under. So in that circumstance, I think I'm going to agree with the pros. Illinois defeats Maryland by 15. Next game we have is Western Kentucky versus Middle Tennessee. And in that game, the pros have Western Kentucky to defeat Middle Tennessee by 13.5 or 14. And the over-under is 56.5 or 57. So in that game, I'm going to agree with the pros. Western Kentucky wins by 14, and I'm going to go under the 57. Next game we have is San Jose State versus Nevada. And in that game, they have San Jose State favored to win by 8.5 or 9 points. The over-under is 52.5 or 53. I do agree in this game. San Jose State wins by 9. The over-under is 53. I'm going to go over the 53. Oh, man. Anyway, the next game we have is Appalachian State versus James Madison. And in that game, the pros have James Madison favored to win that game by 19.5 or 20 points. And the over-under is 53.5 or 54. And in that game, I'm going to agree with the pros on James Madison winning the game, but not by 20, but by 14. And I'm going to go over the 54. Next game we have is South Alabama versus UL Monroe. And in that game, the pros have South Alabama defeating UL Monroe by 3.5 or 4 points. The over-under is 51.5 or 52. I'm going to agree with the pros on that one. I'm going to agree with them. 4-point win for South Alabama over UL Monroe. And I'm going to go over the 52. A few more games. Texas State versus Southern Miss. That game is going to be, it has got, let's see, Texas State versus Southern Miss. They have Southern Miss favored to win that game by 6.5 or 7 points. The over-under is 64.5 or 65. I agree with the win by 7 points, and I'm going to go under the 65. Next game is Memphis versus East Carolina. The pros have Eastern Carolina winning that game by 2.5 or 3 points, and the over-under is 60.5, so I agree with Eastern Carolina winning, and I'll go over the 61. Next, you have Florida Atlantic versus Tulane, and in that game, you have Tulane favored to win that game by 16.5 or 17, and let's see. You have the over-under at 62.5 or 63. I will agree that Tulane wins the game by 10, not by 17, and I'll go over the 63. Next game you have is Tennessee versus New Mexico State, and in that game, the pros favor Tennessee to defeat New Mexico State by 38.5 points or 39, and the over-under is 61.5 or 62. So in that game, I agree Tennessee's going to win that game, but it's going to be by 17 points and not by 39 points, and I'll go over the 62. Next we have is North Carolina versus Wake Forest. Versus Wake Forest. Let's see. In that game, the pros have Wake Forest favored to win that one by 7. The over-under is 39.5 or 40. I agree. Wake Forest wins the game, and it will go over the 40. Next game we're going to look at is Liberty versus Florida International. And in that game, they have Liberty defeating Florida International by 2.5 or 3 points. The over-under is 53.5 or 54. I do agree with that. I do agree with Liberty winning by 3, and I'll go over the 54. Next game you have is Coastal Carolina versus Georgia Southern. And in this game, the pros have Georgia Southern favored to win by 2.5 or 3 points. The over-under is 58.5 or 59. I'm going to disagree completely. And instead of Georgia Southern winning by 3, it's going to be Coastal Carolina by 3, and I'm going under the 59. Next game you have is going to be Florida versus Ole Miss. And in that game, you have Ole Miss favored to win by 15.5 or 16 points. The over-under is 53.5 or 54. I agree with Ole Miss winning the game by 16, and I'm going to go over the 54. Next game we have is going to be Utah versus Baylor. And in that game, the pros have Utah favored to win that game by 8.5 or 9 points. The over-under is 60.5. And so I'm going to agree with that, with Utah winning by 9, and I'm going under the 61. Next, you have Purdue versus Washington. And in that game, you have Washington favored to win that game by 16.5 or 17 points. And the over-under is 53.5 or 54. I will agree with the pros on that one. Washington defeats Purdue by 17 points, and I'm going to go over the 54. Next, you have Delaware versus Sam Houston. And in that game, you have Delaware favored to win that game by 8.5 or 9 points. The over-under is 56.5 or 57. I'm going to agree with that, with Delaware winning, and I'm going over the 57. Next, you have Utah State versus UNLV. And in that game, they have the pros favored UNLV to defeat Utah State by 4.5 or 5 points. And the over-under is 69.5 or 70. And I'm going to agree with the pros on that one. UNLV wins by 5, and I'm going over the 70. Let's see. Next, you have Ohio State versus UCLA. And in that game, Ohio State is favored to win by the pros by 31.5 or 32 points. The over-under is 48.5 or 49. In that game, I'm going to agree with the pros. Ohio State wins by 32. I'll go over the 49. Next, you have Texas versus Georgia. And in that game, you have Georgia favored to win by 6.5 or 7 points. The over-under is 47.5 or 48. And in that game, I'm going to disagree completely, and I think Texas will win by 3, and it'll be over the 48. Next, you have Virginia Tech versus Florida State. And in that game, the pros favor Florida State to defeat Virginia Tech by 12.5 or 13 points. I do agree with the pros on that one in terms of Florida State winning, but I do not think it's going to be by 13 points. It'll be by 8. And the over-under is 54.5 or 55, and I'm going over that. Next, you have Mississippi State versus Missouri. And in that game, Missouri is favored to win that game by 6.5 or 7 points. And the over-under is 51.5 or 52. So in that game, I'm going to agree with Missouri and have them win by 7. And I'm going over the 52. The one real good game this week that a lot are taking note of is Kennesaw State versus Jacksonville State. Both of the teams are undefeated within Conference USA. But despite that, they're favoring Kennesaw State to win by 2.5 or 3 points, and the over-under is 51.5 or 52. I will disagree with that and completely, and I have Jacksonville State winning by 3, and I'm going over the 52. All right, now, let's see. We are still in the college realm of things, so we have Louisiana Tech versus Washington State. That is, the pros have Washington State favored to win that one by 6.5 or 7 points. The over/under is 47.5 or 48. And in that game, I will agree with the pros on that one. That game is going to be interesting, but I think I'm going to agree with Washington State defeating Louisiana Tech by 7, and I'm going over the 48. The game we have is TCU versus BYU. And in that game, they have BYU favored to win that one by 5.5 or 6 points. The over/under is 51.5 or 52. And in that game, I'm going to agree completely with the pros. BYU wins by 6, and I'm going under the 52. Next, you have Boise State versus San Diego State. And in that game, they have San Diego State favored to win by 2.5 or 3 points. And the over/under is 41.5 or 42. I'm going to disagree completely and have Boise State winning that game by 3. And I'm going to go over the 42. Last college game we'll look at is Wyoming versus Fresno State. That one's got, the pros have Fresno State favored to win that game by 4.5 or 5 points. And the over/under is 39.5 or 40. And I'm going to agree with the pros on that one. I think Fresno State wins by 5, and the over/under is 40. So before I get into the NFL part of this stream, let's go one more time and review who's in the AP Poll Top 25. In the AP Poll Top 25, you have number 1, Ohio State, number 2, Indiana, number 3, Texas A&M, number 4, Alabama, number 5, Georgia, number 6, Ole Miss, number 7, Oregon, number 8, Texas Tech, number 9, Notre Dame, number 10, Texas, number 11, Oklahoma, number 12, BYU, number 13, Vanderbilt, number 14, Georgia Tech, number 15, Utah, number 16, Miami and Florida, number 17, USC, number 18, Michigan, number 19, Louisville, number 20, Virginia, number 21, Tennessee, number 22, Cincinnati, number 23, Pittsburgh, number 24, James Madison, and number 25, South Florida. We've now gone over all the college games, and we've gone over the AP poll. So now we're going to switch gears and talk NFL football briefly. And I mean briefly because it's not as many games. Hello to each and every one of you. Man, it's cold out here today. Anyway, in the NFL, you have New York Jets versus New England. That's 7:15 p.m., November 13th. The pros have New England favored to win by 10.5 points or 11. And the over-under is 44.5 or 45. And in that game, I'm going to pick New England to win by 7, and it's going to be over the 45. On Sunday, November 16th, you have Washington versus Miami, and that's an 8:30 a.m. start. The game's being played in Santiago Bernabeu, Madrid, Spain. And in that game, the pros have Miami favored to win by 2.5 or 3 points. The over-under is 47.5 or 48. I agree with that. Miami wins by 3. And I'm going to go under the 48. You have Carolina versus Atlanta, noon kickoff. Atlanta 3.5 or 4 point favorite over Carolina. And you have the over-under at 42.5 or 43. I disagree completely with that one, and I have Carolina winning that game by 4. Man, it's cold. Tampa Bay versus Buffalo. In that game, Buffalo is favored to win by 5.5 or 6 points. The over-under is 51 points or 50.5, and I'm going to agree with the pros on that, under the 51. Houston versus Tennessee, noon kickoff. You have Houston favored to win that one by 7.5 or 8 points. The over-under is 38.5 or 39. And I'm going to agree with that one.
Hello, Moto.
The phone call that came in during this stream. Anyway, I'm going to agree with the fact that they have Buffalo winning the game by 6. I'm going under the 51. In the Houston-Tennessee game, the pros have Houston favored to win over Tennessee by 7.5 or 8 points, and the over-under is 38.5 or 39. I will agree with them on winning, and I will go over on that one. Next, you have Chicago versus Minnesota. That game, the pros have Minnesota favored to win by 2.5 or 3 points, and the over-under is 45.5 or 46. I'm going to agree with that one. Minnesota wins by 3. I'm going over the 46. You have Green Bay versus the New York Giants, noon kickoff. You have Green Bay favored to win that one by 8.5 or 9 points. The over-under is 44.5 or 45. And I'm going to disagree completely, and I think New York Giants wins by 2. I'm going over. On the Cincinnati-Pittsburgh game, that's a noon kickoff. There's no information available on the line or the over-under, so I'm not going to go over that. The same thing is true for the Los Angeles Chargers versus Jacksonville. No information is available. So on those two games, I have Pittsburgh defeating Cincinnati and the Los Angeles Chargers defeating Jacksonville. Next game is Seattle versus the Los Angeles Rams, and in that game, they have the Los Angeles Rams favored to win that game by 2.5 or 3 points. The over/under is 48.5 or 49. I'm going to agree on that one I'm going to agree on that one. Los Angeles Rams wins by 3, and I'm going to go over the 49. All right, and that's a 3:05 p.m. kickoff time. So, yeah. All right, now we have San Francisco versus Arizona, 3:05 p.m. kickoff time. The pros have San Francisco winning by 2.5 or 3 points. The over/under is 48.5 or 49. I will agree with that 3-point win, and under the 49 rather. You have Baltimore versus Cleveland, and in that game, that's a 3:25 p.m. kickoff. Baltimore's favored to win by 9.5 or 10 points. The over/under is 41.5 or 42. I do agree with that on the win, and I'm going to go over. Kansas City versus Denver. That's a 3:25 p.m. kickoff. In that game, they have Kansas City favored to win that game by 3.5 or 4 points. The over/under is 44.5 or 45. I'm going to agree with that. 4-point win for Kansas City over the 45. You have Detroit versus Philadelphia. That's a Sunday night football game, 7:20 p.m. kickoff. You have Philadelphia favored to win that game by 1.5 or 2 points, which is generally almost too close to call, but they had to make a decision. And the over-under is 48.5 or 49. I'm going to agree with that. Philadelphia wins by 2. The over-under is 49. I'm going over that. And for Monday Night Football, you have Dallas versus Las Vegas. That's a 7:15 p.m. kickoff. In that game, Dallas is favored to win that game by 3.5 or 4 points. And the over-under is 50.5 or 51. I'm going to disagree completely with that. I'm going to have Las Vegas beat Dallas by 2, and I'm going to go over the 51. Bye week this week, Indianapolis and New Orleans, meaning they have no games scheduled this week. So there you have it. There are my picks for college football this week, as well as NFL football this week. And normally we don't do it this way, but we may do it like this for the next couple of weeks, where on Mondays, at least, for the next couple of weeks, we will do this where we will make picks in college football and in NFL football. We'll have additional live streams where appropriate when we can. Just stay tuned for the announcements on that. So if there's no other questions, thank you very much for tuning in today for this live stream. I do greatly appreciate it. If you will, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the notification bell so you can be made aware of when I'm doing these live streams, when I have sports action videos, when I have sports education videos, or when I broadcast live, or when I have breaking news in the sports world. If you wish to subscribe to the channel, it is greatly appreciated. You can do so by going to www.youtube.com, the slash symbol, the at symbol, SPORTSLOV, or you can go in the YouTube search tab and type in Sportslov Media, 2 words, SPORTSLOV MEDIA. You'll know it's me because I have Sportslov Media burned into a basketball as my avatar. I'm also on Twitter X. My handle there is at BobAmin16. That is at BOBAMIN16. Thank you for tuning in today. Sportslov Media signing out.